folks, especially down in this region. Maybe Secretary Barella could invite us over for breakfast or something at his mom's house.
My mom would love to have you, Chairman. Everybody else.
Because this is a metroplex region, the El Paso, southern New Mexico, Ciudad Juarez region that is growing tremendously. And, you know, for New Mexico to have this site and be able to participate would be a significant item, I believe.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to work with commissioners, local community. Of course, been down here quite a bit working on the financial community that was referred to earlier. It's something that I'm very much aware of and plug into that whole initiative. So if there's any assistance I can provide, I'd be happy to continue the dialogue with that type of structure, subcommittee, or whatever you would recommend. We can maybe actually pull it into our meetings. We have bi-national community meetings once a month. We have working committees, so we might not want to reinvent the wheel. I get briefed there quite a bit, but I get briefed very regularly on. We have a subcommittee there that we can maybe tie that into, so we're not duplicating efforts. So that's something I'd be willing to assist with. And
very good.
I would be very, very encouraged to do that. I mean, I'm just thrilled with this. It's fantastic stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there other things?
Just wanted to add to that, and we'll get the information from you, at least contact information, and certainly Representative Steinberg and myself can look at the possibility of entertaining some legislation that would assist in providing funding for a conservation easement that would keep the property in your ownership, but would be available for public use.
Thank you. We look forward to talking to you about that.
Excellent, thank you.
Probably require a name change in New Mexico.
It actually, the property is actually listed as Insights New Mexico. What's it called? It does say New Mexico. It's not, doesn't say just take El Paso. But that's the name of the nonprofit, the overreaching one. So that's why El Paso's on your screen.
Any other comments or questions from the commission?
I have one more comment. I just want to underscore a point Commissioner Barella brought up, which is relevant but not to this property exactly, but is really smart. I hadn't noticed before on the map that the Rio Grande does leave New Mexico, go through Texas and come back into New Mexico for a handful of miles, so just put that on the record as a snafu or something to pay attention to.
Annex the Rio Grande.
Also, I do want to point out that the backside of Mount Cristo Rey is actually in Juarez. It's in Mexico. So we are, we're at about, we're just past mile marker 2 on the Rio Grande, on the
International border.
yeah, not mile marker 2, the border marker 2. So we're very close there, and the marker is on Cristo Rey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda is old business. Is there any old business to be brought? Okay. One thing that I think was discussed at the last meeting was the possibility of a domain name, and I believe we were charged to look into that.
Yes, actually, Secretary Latham, are you still on the line there?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you mind visiting with us a little bit about what you found out about the domain name with regard to websites and that kind of information?
Absolutely. Sorry, for sure, and members of the commission, thank you. We did research a domain name for the Rio Grande Trail, and it appears that riograndetrail.com has already been taken because there is an existing Rio Grande Trail in another state. So we purchased the domain name riograndetrailnm.com that currently will redirect to newmexico.org/Rio Grande Trail. But depending on how detailed that we're going to need our website to be for the trail, I think we're going to eventually need to have our own freestanding website. I don't think newmexico.org is the right place for it to be long term. But I do think that newmexico.org/Rio Grande Trail is a great place for us to start as we build content and information and send people to that domain or to that URL for information on the status of the Rio Grande Trail. And speaking with Vice Chair Tafoya, I recommend a phased approach to how we're going to build and market the Rio Grande Trail through the internet. I think phase one should be that we develop newmexico.org/Rio Grande Trail, which is done currently just with a placeholder image, and then we'll work with state parks to provide website copy and photography. We can easily build on that as more content becomes available. As I mentioned, we have purchased and secured riograndetrailnm.com. I think phase two, once we get to the point, is that I'd recommend that state parks issue an RFP or identify a web company to build the actual website in which riograndetrailnm.com would be used for. The tourism department is happy to offer assistance and photography assets as needed. We then transferred the domain ownership over to state parks. And phase three would be once that website is completely freestanding, the tourism department contributes additional marketing support for the domain and the Rio Grande Trail.
Commissioner Latham, on the domain name, would it be .com or .org?
We purchased .com.
Questions for Secretary Latham on the domain name?
So Secretary, Representative Steinborn, thank you for doing that. Appreciate it. And sounds like a good start. I would wonder how soon maybe we could begin to promote the sections that the governor has already designated on the state parks so that we could begin to promote the existing segments, when they become official segments, if they're not already. I think that might be a great way to incentivize other communities and, to encourage the quicker development of the trail near their community. So what would you think about beginning to develop a plan to promote those existing segments?
I think that could be done with relative ease, Representative and members of the Commission. We just need to have the content provided. As I mentioned, what we at Tourism don't have the resources to write all of the copy for the website or to have the map designed that shows where the existing segments are, but we can easily partner with state parks to get that content together. We can, assist in collecting photography assets of those the existing trails that do stand, and populate the current newmexico.org/Rio Grande Trail very quickly.
Maybe I can just add to that with the incredible New Mexico True program and all the great funding war chest you have. Maybe we could even promote some of these trail segments, like the one outside Las Cruces. We're an example. Throw that out there.
Thank you, Representative.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman and Representative and Commissioner Latham. And New Mexico State Parks has 6 parks with really great trail alignments that are already established in fantastic shape. They're signed. We have facilities located nearby, and so we would be more than happy to start promoting these Rio Grande Trail segments. We mentioned at our last meeting that the signage that we have out there, we might want to modify a little bit to incorporate the infant stages of a logo. because we're going to need to be doing some outreach with regard to a Rio Grande Trail logo, but we will be identifying these segments here within the next year as Rio Grande Trail segments. So certainly, state parks would be happy to start providing some copy and marketing these pieces.
Yes, Commissioner Feldman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a question for Secretary Latham and the rest of the commission. Now that we have a domain name purchased, do we need to go and secure the other names that we might use for Facebook or for any other social media outreach?
I apologize, Mr. Chair. I had a hard time hearing.
Secretary, I was just asking if now that we have the domain name purchased, do we need to go and secure the corresponding name for all the other different social media platforms we might use in the future, Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever we need to do to help promote the trail through those means?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioner. That is a great idea. We have not done that yet, but we can easily start working on that.
Great. Any other questions on the, yes?
Not so
Senator.
much questions, but another item on, I guess I would call it old business, only the Association of Counties approached me for sponsorship of legislation relating to water, creating the Advanced Mapping Fund. And when we drafted the legislation, we included in there for the Rio Grande Trail as well. So that would appropriate about $1 million to use the LiDAR technology. For those of you that are not familiar, I know DOT Secretary is familiar with this type of technology. It is a laser satellite type of technology that can pretty much provide a three-dimensional image of anything you want in any topography in the state. It was a presentation before the Science and Technology Interim Committee that brought this technology forth. I know presently the DOT uses it through a contractor out of state, but there is an individual in Santa Fe County that also is advancing this technology. And what I believe the Association of Counties wants to do is use it for county roads and the like. But I wanted to bring forth the idea and the notion that included in that will be some provision for the Rio Grande Trail as well. So this is ideal technology that can be easily adopted for the purposes of developing, if you will, an image of what the trail will literally look like on a three-dimensional method that I think it's extraordinary, quite honestly. So you can look forward to that in the not too distant future.
Thank you. Is there any other old business? If not, the first item under new business will be reports from work groups. And the primary one that we want to address first is work that the alignment work group has been doing. And I did want to mention that Secretary Tom Church's designee, Ann McLaughlin, worked very hard on this with our Dr. David Certain in State Parks, and came up with the draft document that you have in your handout. Unfortunately for us, Ann Latham has taken a job. She retired from the state and has taken a job in Florida. So I just wanted to publicly thank her and also David for their hard work in this effort, and to make the presentation that has been put together, someone that's very familiar with it from the Department of Transportation, and that's Aaron Dieter, and he'll discuss the draft document on the statement of work that we would consider for requests for proposals. So, Aaron?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. As you mentioned, Ann McLaughlin, who had been our statewide planning bureau chief, has taken another job and is no longer with the DOT. And I'm going to sort of take the torch from her a little bit. We've worked really closely with David Certain and State Parks and EMNRD on this draft scope of work. So just a reminder to the commissioners, this is in your packet. It is in your binder under B in the back. And a little bit of background to all the folks in the audience as well. At the October meeting of the commission in Taos, Ann McLaughlin announced that our secretary, Tom Church, had committed to funding a master plan and alignment study using recreational trail program funds that we administer at the department. And we thought somewhere in the range of about $500,000 would be the total project cost to do a really robust master planning effort, alignment study by region as well. And that would involve a state match, since it is federal aid funding from FHWA. The state match is 14.56, and we would need to work out how that would be handled. But in light of that funding and that NMDOT administers those funds, we thought we would go ahead and sort of kick off the discussion of developing a scope of work for